Welcome back to Paranormal Living, previously known as Light Talk. Today we have a fantastic guest. I'm so excited to have him on. And so you guys all know the drill. Let's go ahead and get started. So welcome to the show and introduce yourself and tell us what you're all about.
Japhy Ryder out of South Korea, and Dana or Dana. I know people sometimes pronounce it differently, but what do you prefer? What do you go by?
D-A, like
Is it
D-A-Y-N-A.
is it just
Dana.
Dan? Is it Dana? Yeah, yeah. Some people no, it's Dana. So yeah, very particular about those things. Some folks, but anyways, yeah. I mean, just expat a Canadian expat living here, based out of South Korea, the past 20 plus years. It's getting to be quite a journey. And happily married, three cats. I myself do. We've kind of cut back, dialed down the live streaming end of things a little bit this year, just because looking at our life's priorities and assessing things here as far as would you rather be doing something like this or maybe going out and engaging in a little street busking. That's my other one of my other passions in life, besides live streaming, which I've now been doing the past 10 plus years with the help of friends from all over the world, largely American uh, mateys. And by the way, yes, it is a pirate themed operation. I don't think I mentioned it. WPRPN.com, the websites. It's not we're changing over the host providers at present, so bear with us, folks. But World Pirate Radio Podcast Network is what that stands for. WPRPN.com. And indie music promoter, underground digital live streamer. In the past, worked as a freelance journalist, professional street busker, and just a general all around jack of all trades. Someone who's had, I guess, what you could say is more than his fair share of paranormal type experiences down through the years. I made a list. Dana, you and your husband reached out to me, and we worked on putting this show together here today. So I got busy making a list and kind of thinking, reflecting upon the different events that have taken place over my life that your listeners might find to be of some interest. I'm not sure if we're going to have the opportunity to get to all of them over the course of just this 1 hour, but I'll definitely try my best. So, how's that for a little
Well, we can
intro?
bring you back. Yeah, we can bring you back if you need more time. We can bring you
If it's
back.
if it's exciting enough, I suppose, and yes, appealing to your audience. So,
Okay.
all right, good stuff. Thank you.
Paranormal is always good stuff.
Yeah. So where would you like to start then? With me unpacking things here. Childhood, perhaps.
Where did it all begin? What was your first experience?
Yeah, probably as a kid, as a kid. Although I'll tell you what, I did with the list I made here. I didn't quite have it set up that way. Let's see what we're looking at. Synchromysticism. Synchromysticism. That's what we had kind of hit upon. And I'm not sure if you've been paying. We'll come back to the childhood origins of things here in a few minutes, but
Okay.
uh, and I really if I had a famous Korean shaman actually tell me a number of years ago, she said that in a past life, and it just came to her from out of the blue, and she just threw it out at me that in a past life I was actually a, Chinese monk. Nothing too spectacular, not like the Emperor
Oh,
of
that's
Rome
pretty
or
cool.
anything like that. Yeah, just to try, but it makes sense because of I'm really kind of borderline obsessed with the Silk Roads and the history, like Han, China history, the uh, what's known as Greco Buddhism. Actually, it's a syncretic type. People want to look that up. It's about a 900-year epoch or epoch, you know, however you choose to people, whatever they prefer. This period where it's the synthesis and syncretization of uh, you know influence from Greece and that of the Eastern world, India in particular, it would seem so. And just that was rampant throughout the Near East, Asia Minor region, especially during that pivotal Han Chinese dynasty, which, some, I like to look at it. I call it, scholars refer to it as the axial age, but they don't put it quite as forward in linear time as I do, where because this is right around the time of Christ, right? Like the few hundred years leading up to Christ, and then a few hundred years after Christ, and that was essentially it. It all got kicked off. It started with Alexander the Great, basically, and the impact that he had, and I didn't even know that the influence that um, his campaigns, what that they had, they managed to actually establish these Buddhist uh, communities, and you've heard of the Bamayan Buddhas. Remember the Taliban blew those up back in the day, right, leading up to 2001, the terror attacks. In fact, the giant Buddhas of Bamayan out of Afghanistan, and right there, I knew that. Oh, this is bad karma, man. This is really bad karma. Whatever is going on here, not good. So, but anyways, the famous um this nationally renowned shaman, she told me that just from right out of the blue, in a past life you were a Chinese monk. That's why you have this fascination with this time period and all things like sort of relating to what's known as Buddha Dharma or Greco Buddhism and this whole syncretic um uh what would you say, a syncretic phenomenon, I suppose. So now what I was going to say, so synchromysticism, though, and you might notice even at this stage I like to jump around a little bit, maybe more than others, but so feel free to drop the hammer and like put the brakes on things if you're getting lost here in a little too a little not as easy to follow as you would like. So yeah, feel free. But I just got I lost a job recently, and as I was walking out with the box of board games in hand, and in actually, yeah, that on the ground there was this broken, kind of shattered shamrock key ring. And the wife, I drew it to the wife's attention. She immediately was like, "Don't touch it." But I was drawn to it. It was like right there on the ground. It's like you don't see these sort of things every day. I wanted to take a closer look and investigate. I think it's set on, and I
Hmm.
wish I would have paid closer attention right there and then, but the kind of spacey sort of guy that I am, I think it basically was like like speed, health, energy, heart, that sort of thing. It was like each of the leaves of the shamrock had, and it might have even been a four-leaf clover. I can't recall at this point, but uh, the clover itself was still intact, but the key ring was broken and pretty shattered, and like just fell right apart there, laying on the ground. Maybe it dropped or was just discarded by whoever had originally had it. But I went home shortly thereafter and heard the news that Glenn Hansard had passed away. I don't know if that name rings a bell with you. Probably some of your listeners. He's the famous Irish folk balladeer and bard, essentially, who recently was killed in a tragic motorcycle accident. People, if they're interested, can look it up on the internet and take it from there, obviously. But for me, synchromysticism, and you've heard the term synchronicity. I'm quite
Yeah.
confident most people have. So this is one of those things where if we pay attention to these, like the wind, for example, is a good example, or sounds and noises in are occurring in our environment, or just from out of the blue bumping into somebody, maybe that we had just been thinking of a few moments prior. And I do have three cats here, so I have to bear with us from time to time as far as having to do a little kitty management. One wanted to get a little hop up on my lap here, get really
Sure.
close and intimate. So this is Mandu, but um, we got Hang on, Danny, and Mandu. Long story, but and love them to death, all three of them. So it was just one of those things. I got to thinking, and it just really it was one of those things that to me really uh, was very synchro mystical in many ways. And from there, I thought it would be interesting to mention that I don't see auras like some people do. They see auras every day. I've only
Hmm.
ever seen one aura, and that was actually when I was in Wales back in 1999. And I turned around in this hotel where I'd been actually working on tracking the guy down. It was after one of his shows at the Ross on Y Jazz Festival. Turned around, and there, walking in toward me, was Sir Ivan Morrison, Van Morrison, with this what I could only describe as a halo of light around his head and shoulders, white light,
Oh,
um,
wow.
just kind of just bursting, and I
Awesome.
yeah, and he is a pretty spiritual guy, pretty grouchy guy too. Although I was fortunate because I did later actually have the chance to briefly talk to him. He came in and he kind of just looked checked in with where a number of us were having just relaxing, kicking back, and imbibing in a Guinness or what have you, and struck up a bit of a conversation. But it was just, yeah, it was one of those things that I felt a really strong, although I'll remember for the rest of my life and always wonder about the significance of that. He himself, speaking of monks, had for some time back in the day, and this is maybe why, if you listen to some of his music, you can pick up on this. Um, th- there's a whole tradition, like the Bardic tradition in Ireland, and that he considered becoming a monk, actually just kind of checking out of society and going into retreat. And I don't know what they do. I guess they pray for society, the world, like how messed up things are, and hope that people get their lives together and are maybe
Yeah.
free of suffering, and can find some peace and solace with the people that they lose along the way, and illnesses and whatnot that they have to
Right.
deal with. So, but yeah, that's kind of what I would just now childhood, childhood. Oh, by the way, speaking of the mudang, the Korean shaman business, that she actually had invited me to a retreat up in the mountains at this a number of years ago. And as we were getting out of her vehicle, it was nighttime, and as I we were getting out and just kind of closing the doors and whatnot, I turned around, I looked up to the sky behind us, and there was this shooting star, meteorite, what have you, like a shooting star of some kind. It was a UFO, and I say that just in the sense that it was unidentified, because who knows, it was a flying object that I don't think anyone knew what it was. But I don't, it's another example of how synchromysticism and not seeing, experiencing those sort of things on a day-to-day basis, very rare, special opportunity, and timing too, the situation in the moment, and then it's gone. And I guess that's been part of what paranormal is, right? That science can't quite get get
The
itself.
unknown.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
can't quite fathom things. So, but I don't know, childhood. If you want to hear anything about that, I suppose, or what
Yeah.
do you think? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you
Yeah.
what.
We
Here's
could go
here's a
back.
here's the thing. So when I was about maybe six, I guess, five, six, yeah, six, let's say, six. We were traveling out on the road. I'm from British Columbia originally, and we lived in the central interior of the province. And we went on a road trip. Dad took us on a road trip, and we were, as I recall, headed south. I think we might have ended up down in the Okanagan, perhaps. I wish I could remember more clearly now, because it's been such a long time, obviously. But he was making a boat deal. That's what I do remember. Uh, Trying to pick up this old boat from one of my grandfather's old buddies and friends, and well, they were just kind of shooting uh, shooting the breeze, uh, and kind of going over things that I I believe this old elderly gentleman, he had a granddaughter that was at that, like, at the house with him and his wife, and we ended up sort of spending some time just playing a little bit out on the, like, the front, not quite porch, veranda or what have you. And she started talking about her imaginary friend. Uh, you know, this is the way I remember it. And it's really bizarre, but it's a memory it's kind of stuck with me for a great many years. That's why I bring it up. Uh,
Yeah.
how accurate and true to form it all really was, I don't know, but it's an interesting little story. Whatever the case, it would seem. Her imaginary friend, and she's like, "Would you like to see my imaginary friend?" And can you see my imaginary friend? And then it was almost like this little, like a little angel or something appeared. Maybe it was a fairy, or who knows, really. But it felt like, then it seemed like I could see the imaginary friend. I'm not sure if they delivered a message or not, but the little girl did. Um, the little friend might have delivered a message. It had to just do with something about living a good life, that maybe probably that each of us has a purpose to fulfill, and that in order to do that to the best of our abilities, we should be careful with the decisions that we make, and you know, things along those lines. So there's just something that I had to remember, and she asked me repeatedly, like, "Are you promise you'll remember? You promise you'll remember? You promise?" And it's like, "Yeah, oh, I know. Promise is so easy to remember. Sure, of course, I've got this." And then the boat deal wrapped up. We parted ways, and it was great. The whole experience very wonderful. And I didn't mention anything about it to my dad at all. But within the next year or so, I was visited by. We moved uh, uh, to a new house actually in town, and there over the course of a couple nights there appeared, and I researched this a few years ago, and I found that, geez, and anyone can do this, of course, too. These ring wraith type dark hooded figures, not a really good vibe at all. I was quite frightened. They appeared
Mm.
on, like, it had to have been like three separate nights. And it's like almost like it sensed they're approaching, every evening too.
Mm.
And I don't know, it's like they came right up to me and just slowly with I don't know, some it was malevolent intent, and just wanting to like a mind meld maybe, or something, maybe like almost like suck the innocence out, or contaminate perhaps with the evil that the malevolence that they embodied. Now that I think of it, really, I hadn't really stopped to reflect on this all that deeply and see it in that sense or context until just now. And because kids are innocent, basically. I think kids are pretty innocent for the most part, and
Mm-hmm.
so that was like the flip side of things. And I went over to my parents' bedroom across the hallway and was all terrified, and tell you know telling them what had happened. And I don't know if this happened. This is finally like on the third night. I guess that I did this, and I think it kind of freaked them out too. But it was profound, and it's like these dark kind of hooded figures, ring wraith characters, and people can look it up. I did. I researched this. Duck, duck, go. Alex Jones. He's always just Google it. He's like, what are you talking about? You're anti-establishment. You just Google it. What? What's wrong with? Come on, Alex. You could do better than that. So no, duck, duck, go. They're not perfect, but I think they're at least a little bit. No data mining with DuckDuckGo, right? So, but yeah, there we go. And that was intense and profound. And
Yeah.
I don't know. You want me to continue? I've got a whole. I've got.
Keep
I'm trying to.
going. Yeah.
Okay, just not. No questions to this point. It's okay. So let's see what we
Yeah,
got
you're
here.
doing fine.
All right, good stuff. Um. Oh, well, let's see. Do I have the timeline right here or not? But anyways, hey, this is kind of jumping ahead a little bit now from out of childhood, more later on down the road. There's probably a lot I missed out on as far as things that if I'd been paying attention throughout the course of my life, that they would have registered and resonated more strongly. But you
Mm-hmm.
know how young guys are, especially like into adolescence mode, and like
Mm-hmm.
girls, girls, girls,
Yeah. Hey.
sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So, oh, geez. But speaking of which, the sex end of things, hopefully this isn't too over the top for your listeners. But numbers are also something that people are encouraged to pay attention to as far as the synchronicity end of things is concerned. And I once had two phone numbers because I was getting a new phone line, I guess, installed basically, and two phone numbers that I could choose from, and one just happened to be, I think it was either 692 or 695, 6969, and the operator lady and I had a pretty decent chuckle over that one. If you get it or not, I'm sure you married lady, I'm sure you do. Um,
Got
so
it.
yeah, right. And of course, I had to go there. I couldn't. I guess we got to take it. Got to take the nut. It's like right there. It's like, although I didn't have to. That's the thing, life's decisions. Who knows what other like don't be such a perv. Don't be so corrupted by the world, because the world is very, both Buddha and Christ renounced the world, I think pretty much in its entirety, and which I'm down with in the sense that the world is I guess like it's a means to an end. It's a way, it's an opportunity, a chance for us to improve ourselves and to just to make good, maybe make amends, maybe redemption too as well for things that we've done in a past life. And this is actually a tie into the whole pirate project that we've got on the go via WPRPN.com. Now it's currently in transition, but we hope to rectify that here within a very short, the next week or so at least, getting our content restored because we're changing once again host providers and just trying to start with a fresh, more user friendly layout and
Right.
whatnot. But our former friend who's now passed away, deceased, uh, Pirate Larry, uh, he was a friend of the show and he would join us as a co-host for, geez, it had to be 5 or 6 years at least, darn near. And but Piratas de Dios, I'm really kind of shaky with Spanish pronunciation, but the Pirates of God. You know how the Blues Brothers, I'm, I'm sure if not you, then some of your listeners, they talk about, it's like we're here, we're on a mission from God, and so Piratas de Dios, the pirates of God, and the way Larry, the way he, the way he kind of explained things is that in a past life we were bad boys and girls and we did bad things as pirates, cutthroats, scoundrels and rogues, and we don't have to be that way this go round. We can more ham it up a little, and with the cosplay end of things, more than seriously causing all kinds of mayhem, inflicting all kinds of mayhem upon people and depriving them of their worldly possessions. Unless, of
Mhm.
course, unless of course they deserve to be, I suppose. That's where we have the whole Robin Hood angle tie in. Hashtag WWRHD. What would Robin Hood do? Check out the merchandise, folks. Galacticfire.com. We do have that website is in place, and we do have merch that is available: coffee mugs, t-shirts, you name it. Yeah, WWRHD. What would Robin Hood do? It's an important question. But yeah, this go around, we have the opportunity to do better, and on a mission from God, the pirates of God. So, and that was Pirate Larry who turned us on to that whole concept, and we really thank him in a big way for having done that. So um I'm not sure where exactly we were going with this now. I don't think that was an enlisted.
Synchronicities.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. That wacky telephone number. But I'll tell you what,
Right.
here's this is now I do have B negative blood type. And I wasn't clear, but I was listening to just a documentary the other day. And we hear a lot about this RH negative, and I'm not a health expert, medical expert, but I it may fall into that category. It's a rare kind of blood type that only I don't know if you know better than I do, but the very small percentage of people actually have. It's hard to get, especially here in South Korea. So, um,
Isn't it something to do with like being a hybrid or something like that? That you're
could
like, it's the hybrid bloodline kind of thing going on
may
there.
that could be part of it. Yeah, yeah. It's probably why I irritate so many people. It's like, I, I don't know. Yeah, I can't help it. It's in my character. Going around pulling people's wooden legs, as it were. It's a pirate parlance. Pulling their wooden legs. But yeah, you might have a point there. That's something I'll have to look up. But with the whole business, it's really and a lot more too. I think there's even more to it than that. So it's something I think that definitely makes you a target, whether you realize it or not. And but I don't know if this is the sort of thing even that it's why some people have, ring wraiths appearing at in their bedroom when they're kids and others don't. It just it's all contingent upon, as you say, like the bloodlines, because the power elite, as we've most of us have heard or and understand, they're totally obsessed with bloodlines, and they follow these things quite closely for whatever reason. I wouldn't be surprised, in fact, if most recruits into like things like the MK Ultra program, of which we've interviewed a few people who were
Oh my.
victims of
Mm.
that. Um, that's the sort of thing that they look for. But thankfully, I managed to more or less escape their clutches. Uh, growing up. I'm not sure where
Yeah.
things stand at present, but hey, I'll tell you. Here's what we got next on the list as far as the whole sync. This is more mystical. I don't know about the synchronistic end of things. Um, Apparitions. I've seen very different apparitions over the years. What one is to make of it exactly, I could not tell you. But basically, I was alone on both. Actually, once I was alone. The other time I was walking down the street, and so the first time I had the first apparition, I think was I don't know if it was Excalibur or Mjolnir, but and we recently talked to a Jungian psychoanalyst we had on our show. Pirate Radio Podcast is the name of the flagship that that uh, that we work with. Scott D. Smith, who we're going to be having on again in the next couple of months. This is Jungian psychoanalyst, the first that we've actually managed to really connect with, and has accepted our invitation to be a part of things. And after we had our first conversation, he was decent enough to get back to us and say, "Hey, let's do this again sometime." So we're down with that. But yeah, I visualize just from out of nowhere, um, just materialized this, but and it wasn't like it said Excalibur on the sword. It was just that I had a feeling. It's like because in my mind I'm thinking, what is this? And just there was, I guess you'd say, like a feeling, a voice to some extent. Just there's this really just profound impression that it was Excalibur, not in physical form, but just this apparition. It was crazy. And then after a few moments, it just dematerialized, and it's like, whoa, that was heavy. Um, to be quite honest, I was probably smoking weed at the time too. I had to have been, and I wasn't that high. I mean, come on, but I'm probably, you know, stoned enough. That's one of the, but one of the issues I had living in Canada back in the days is smoking a little too much pot, which apparently is not good for you as far as your psychic defenses are concerned. I heard that from this black witch. I didn't know she was a black witch at the time, but we ended up getting together for the better part of a year, and oh God, terrible person, great teacher. If you can follow
Wow.
that one, yeah, I know, and
Yeah.
it's a long story, and I've got a little bit more to talk about as far as things that came up regarding her and my experience, my relationship with her. But you know how some people are, they're terrible people, but they really teach you good lessons about how people are and how life is and the world works, that maybe we shouldn't be so stupid and gullible and you know naive or ignorant or what have you. So she helped open my eyes to a number of things. But uh yes, and that had to do with smoking too much pot, and which I really wasn't a big consumer of it either. Just because I'm a real lightweight, like one or two puffs, I'm gone. Like I don't need any more. Like I really don't. Especially as someone who is like a singer and performer. If there's it says like now in Canada they have, and probably in places down the states. I'm not sure what state are you based out of exactly?
Colorado, it's all legal.
Oh, I see. Okay, sure. But right on the container, and hopefully they don't have any low grade CCP, communist Chinese, whatever it is there. But because they go around spraying the crops, from what we're hearing, uh, it's just terrible stuff, and they jack it up the THC level so high, like people don't. I don't see how people can justify that unless you have a serious medical condition. But anyways, as a singer and performer, entertainer, you need to, unless you're cheating with teleprompters, which I don't like to do,
Mhm.
you need to be able to remember what you're singing about, the how you're, the structure of your song, verses and choruses, bridges, and so forth, and also so it's the concentration as well as memory. It says right on the containers, this may impair your concentration and memory. And trust me, like, yeah, over the number of years that I was smoking weed back in Canada, it definitely even now I probably suffer, whether to what extent or not I really couldn't say, but long term long-term effects, just what it's done to the neuroreceptors, the brains. I should have eaten more. I
Yeah.
should have had more edibles or something, maybe. I don't know. But anyways, and then so the next time, first we had Excalibur there. The house on the lake was where this occurred. I was living in my grandparents' place at the time. Next occasion with this materialization, manifestation of an apparition from just out of interdimensional, really, you could almost say. And maybe I was the only one who could see this, like the second time walking down the street in a town near, it's like a regional sort of community about 90 minutes from where I was based out of at the time. And so there were people around and the whole bit, and it it was just right from out of nowhere once again. But this was like Thor's hammer, Thor's hammer. So just like right there in front of me, I was like, what the hell? And so what Scott D. Smith, our Jungian analyst, psychoanalyst, author friend, what he said is that this it's something that we're connecting with in a deeper, like, archetypal unconscious. So, and it's just coming through, trying to speak to us basically, and is a deeper reflection of our potential, I guess, really, as each of us find ourselves on our own unique, uh, what Joseph Campbell referred to as hero's journey, perhaps. So, yeah, each of
Or
us have our own,
journeys. Yeah.
yeah, our own just unique, special path. So, yeah,
Yeah.
so those are some pretty powerful experiences, no doubt about it. There's some UFO tie-ins here as well. In fact, that's next in the list. My dad back in the mid, and this is all during around the same time, more or less, give or take a few years. But my dad, I wasn't present. He was up there in the his homestead. He's a had a he's a denturist. Makes not a dentist, but a lot of people get confused. But denturist, we have false teeth, the uppers and lowers, and the whole one shot kind of deal. And my grandfather was a denturist, my dad and my sister, and they all did quite well for themselves. I'm the black sheep of the family, obviously. If people haven't picked up on that by now. So, yeah, but he was, I guess, the story he told me. This is really interesting, not only because of what they saw, but because of how he now claims to remember things, or for that matter, not remember things. So I talked to him as two extensive telephone interviews here via South Korea, not one but two, and just in a second, just to kind of get clear and on details, and uh so that we could really put a decent story together. And we've got the link there. I could send it to you. I think we could send it to you. As I was saying, the main website is down, and we had that on. It was linked off of Japhy's man cave. That's where I kept all my main social media links, whether Minds or Vimeo, or where I've got a number of music videos. And this was Medium, which I haven't written for in a number of years. But back in the day, this is one of the articles, one of the stories blogs, basically, I put together regarding my family's UFO experience. Basically, they were experiencers, from what my dad was telling me. There was a slit that appeared out of nowhere on the horizon, the distant horizon, along, just far, close to the mountains, I guess, in what was probably the maybe northeast. That's what it sounds like. And they're way out there in the country. There's other little farms and homesteads in the area, but um, they had this something that emerged, popped out of this little slit that appeared like a time space portal, and slowly drifted over to where they were having they started a little fire. They were going to have some hot dogs, and just, they weren't drinking. And they're definitely not, they don't do weed or nothing like that. So they're pretty straight laced. They could have been drinking, but Dad says they weren't doing, like, no, not a single beer or nothing. My sister was there. My the lady that was my stepmother at the time, and so there's three of them, I guess. And what ended up appearing, it just kind of slowly drifted over to above the barn, was what he said. Ended up being this giant flaming C, kind of like a horseshoe C type object. Um, pretty pretty big, large. I hate to try to significant very quite significant in size, and it just from what he
Yeah.
recalls, it just is like right there over the barn, about well, I don't know, do you say 100 meters atop above the barn, and my sister claims to have no memory of this whatsoever, which is interesting. Dad insists that she was there with his ex-wife, my stepmother at the time, but I didn't get the chance to talk to her because she was no longer part of the picture. But it just, according to what the story that he had to offer, it sat there for just a couple of minutes, and he went and he was like in such awe,
Right.
because this is not, as I said to my sister, what do you mean you don't remember? It's not like this is the sort of thing you experience on a day-to-day basis. This is like from out of the blue, out of the ordinary. Like
Right.
this is the sort of thing you expect you would remember the rest of your life. But anyway, so he was like total awe, supplication, like the gods had just arrived or something like that. Take me on your ship. I want to, or whatever it is, I want to go for a ride. And you hear about this a lot of times. People, they just are so overwhelmed when they have these sort of experiences. And it really wasn't even a ship to speak of. It was just this giant flaming sea. And then he says it was there for just a couple of minutes, and then it just slowly drifted back to where it had originated, and back into the time space portal.
Wow.
It's all zipped up on itself, and it was gone. So here's the really interesting, couple interesting things. Uh, the newspaper the next week, community regional newspaper. This is back in the early '90s. Central interior of British Columbia, of which is said to be it's a kind of a hot spot for sightings and experiences, uh, which could actually lead to my next little uh, anecdote or mini story, I suppose. But with on a personal note, which I don't know where that things stand on in this, when with this whole what I experienced. Uh, which was a number of years after this. This is in '92 with my dad, and like I said, former stepmom and sister. The newspaper the next week said that, oh yes, well, by the way, if anyone happen, this is the military, of course, which is just a really strange, rare thing for them to do, announcing that
Right.
if that if any, don't be alarmed if anyone saw anything out of the ordinary. Those seem to be kind of peculiar in the last week or so in your area. Don't be alarmed. The military was just shooting off freon canisters into the into the sky, shooting them off and testing them for these freon canister. Like what? Uh,
Yeah.
so first of all, isn't that
Nice
going
try.
to isn't that like anti-ozone layer? Like what are you guys doing? Freon but and then and second, it's like, yeah, they haven't evolved too far from the whole swamp gas nonsense, have they? That whole business, just this is swamp gas. It's like, God, give me a break. So
Yeah.
it was just utterly ridiculous. But there we go. And my now, so my sister for the longest time insists she has no memory. But then I went back and saw her in Canada last year with the wife, and she's like, I pressed her on it a couple times. I wanted to be careful because I didn't want to set her off. But
Right.
she's like, oh yeah, that thing. And it's like, yeah, and she just kind of brushed it off and just kind of changed the subject right away. Nothing, didn't say it. She's so sure. First of all, when I talked to her, prior to that, like a couple, just the first time I talked to her, asking her about the whole business, she said, that she had well, no memory, nothing at all. And then this go around, she's like, "Oh yeah, that thing," and that was it. So, and we hear a lot about that. I'm not sure if have you looked. You probably have some people that talk, UFOs and so forth, and alien encounters. Uh, this was just an experience on their part, I think. Unless they were who knows if they could have been abducted and not even remembered anything. But
That's
my
what I think
dad's
your sister had. I think your sister was.
uh
And that's why she doesn't remember. Because a lot of times
oh,
they'll take the memory out because it's too horrifying for them or too scary
well,
for them. So they'll take
yeah.
the scariness
Hmm.
out. So they'll have them forget.
That's right. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, I did ask her. I said, "Well, would you be willing to undergo hypnotherapy?" And she said yes. She said yes. And because she's pretty kind of open-minded. She's a kind of believer in reincarnation. I don't know why. I didn't quite get to the bottom of that one. Like what makes her such a believer? Um, but that's fine. I mean, didn't Jesus say what 35 times? I guess I looked it up. I think it was a 34 or 35 times asking ChatGPT this born again business, and that's about what we're looking at there. And I really believe that essentially in my mind, he and Buddha are very similar in the same sort of category, like gold, spiritual gold, Jesus, spiritual gold, Buddha. The problem is you put them in like clear glasses of water. Um, but the Jesus one, if you can see this here, let's see. Yeah, well, I'm drinking coffee here, but the water's got kind of muddied. He's still in there, but it's like you gotta like what? You gotta look really hard to see things clearly as they were, and that's where thankfully we have the Gospel of Thomas and other heretical writings such as that, which challenge Pollyanity. That which is something that it's just Paul was. I mean, I just don't buy it. His role in things, and this is probably controversial because there's a lot of people that they don't question anything and they don't want to, and if just whatever they're told to believe, they do, and that's it. So, but so much was suppressed, and in fact, reincarnation, I guess, was taken out of church doctrine in I think it was a sixth century. It was a fifth or sixth ecumenical gathering, Constantinople. People want to look that one up. Theodora, I guess, had a hand in that. She was the empress who worked her way up from a lowly like entertainer, circus performer, and prostitute. Slept her way to the top, basically, which is like, well played. But she was also quite just I don't know why what I've heard is that she pushed hard to have reincarnation taken out of the Bible, the Orthodox, you know, teachings, as it were. So there you go.
Interesting.
But yeah, that alarm
Yeah.
clock that you just heard, the alarm that we just heard go off is actually typically when I get up and work on getting uh, by getting ready and on my way out the door for work. We've got 50 minutes before I need to be at work. We got a few more minutes here we could do, and if you want to maybe have me back because I haven't finished everything.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. Well, a few more items, and then I'll have to excuse myself. If that's
absolutely.
okay. Now, when I was dating, I dated a few women back in the day, if you can believe that. And
No,
no, I can't. No, no. Yeah. So, but and each had their own appeal, and I guess it's interesting to think too, like the call it fate, destiny, or karma. What sort of backstory there was on a wider cosmic scale, as to what brought us together, and in the end, did we finish what we were hoping to
right.
accomplish on a
Did you
in a
learn your lesson through them?
yeah, well, that the witch lady, I'll tell you. And another thing she did, it's interesting. There's a couple of things. There was, and this is we're going to talk about a mirror right now, two mirrors. So I might as well segue for the mirror, but also her use of the tarot. The this is I was up in Canada. This is an American witch lady, and I didn't know she was a black witch at the time either. Uh, Hang on just a second. Speaking of muddy water, yeah, Buddha you can see quite clearly. Clear water, you can see the gold clearly in the clear water. Christ, he's there's gold there, but it's obscured, and you got to get the politics. The politics. Come on, do away with that. So yeah, don't get me started. Um, but
Okay, I won't.
okay. Okay. Well, you already have. So here, in a
Well,
way,
we're going to go back to the mirrors, right?
yes, ma'am. That's right. There we go. So here's this hippie chick. This crazy. All my girlfriends were crazy, of course. Not me. Um, crazy redheaded
Wait.
hippie chick, and no, she was great in her own way, and yeah, I hold a special place in my heart for all those women, even that nasty witch lady, but she gets a very special place in the sense of being more of a teacher than someone that we should or I ever should have. Hopefully next time around I won't bother to pursue things romantically with that lady. But the mirror, this redheaded hippie chick, and speaking of which, it's interesting. She's not the first redheaded girlfriend that I had. Don't know if that's just a coincidence or not, but also my mother was redheaded, and I think that's where you find a lot of this Rh negative B, and mine once again being simply B negative blood type. I could be mistaken, but it's this whole sort of who was that female warrior out of she almost toppled the Roman Empire in why am I brain dumping on her name? Maybe come back to that. Always think of her though, like in the chariot with her sword, of course. And she led her tribe. She united the tribes of the UK, ancient Britain at the time. I think her name started with a Boudica, and yeah, and maybe like the Celtic influence too. Which, from the looks of things, you may have a little bit of that sort of thing going on. So, but this mirror business, the hippie chick what she did was she claimed to have at the house in the lake that my grandparents formerly owned. She looked in the mirror, and you and your listeners have probably heard a thing or two over the years about mirrors. Whether it's for who knows, like scrying or what have you. She swears she saw my deceased grandmother's face, staring at her, and in a not too overly friendly way either. So basically, it's like, what are you doing in my house? What are you doing here, like with my grandson, and that sort of deal, that sort of vibe. But uh,
Yeah.
that's about all I can really say about she. And it she didn't never told me right away. It just came up one day in conversation, and I just couldn't believe it. It just sounded so strange, out of this world. But she insists that she saw, and I don't even know how she knew what my grandmother looked like. I guess she thinks she on that day she learned, you know. So on that day, she learned. The house probably was haunted too. It had a very strong energy. Although I never there's not too much that I can speak to as far as that whole business goes, other than what the one girlfriend, uh, testified to. So now this other mirror business, the witch lady, she had her after we were settled in Canada. She had her mirror. I think it was shipped up. It was shipped up to Canada. Made its way. It was that special and important to her, and it was her grandmother's. And I ended up, because we parted on not the best of terms, and she owed me money. Uh, I ended up selling it. She warned me not to, but that's what I did. Yeah, well, that's what I did. You know, I just have to deal with the consequences, I guess. But she owed me money, and there was a lot, maybe a few more things. I helped her out a fair deal, her and her kids. I helped them get resettled and taking them back down to the States. And she had this crazy ex that ended up that she was on the run from, but you know how relationships are, and she just couldn't seem to like to figure out, did she want to be with him or not, and or just use him and play him in a
Sure.
strategic way, or what was going on. He ended up coming all the way up to Canada with a loaded gun in his baggage. And I think with that being the case, I'm probably and he's a former military guy too. So it wouldn't have been the first time he'd fired a gun, handgun, but probably somewhat had someone looking out over me during that time, because he was out of his mind. Although who knows, maybe after driving all that distance and him having a chance to meet his ex, that she did what she could to calm him down. Why would he drive all that way just to see his ex and his kids, though, as if I was going to be, you know, uh, taking them away from him. I don't know. So I think basically it was very temporary, as a lot of relationships are. And I I I provided what she was looking for at that particular time. She needed help. She was in a bad relationship, and like I said, I provided aid and support, and food, and a house and everything else for the kids for the better part of a year, really, until we I helped them even to relocate back down to the States. So uh like I said, just really ultimately really a really terrible person. But in my estimation, others might say that it's completely totally not the case. But um, a great teacher nonetheless. And so I think there's a lot people can learn from that, no doubt.
Yeah.
But
I'm
and her
learning that
tarot. Go ahead.
I'm just learning that when you have that per se negative time frame in your life, it's a lesson. It's something that you need to learn. It's something that either you can look down deeper within yourself or learn how to um, act differently or think differently towards that situation so that you can learn to be that better individual that you are to bring yourself up to a higher level of energy, if that makes sense to you.
Sure does. Yeah. Yeah. That's it's the Dalai Lama talks about, and it's kind of like the wisdom tradition that that's the best way of looking at it. Maybe that's one of the reasons, I don't know, Christ and saying love your enemies. Well, is that love or understand your enemies and learn from your enemies, I suppose. And they have a lot to teach us. There's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
People that would persecute and abuse us and ridicule, and so yeah, it helps us toughen up and grow and mature. Absolutely. So
Right.
just to I'll finish up with this lady here, and then maybe we can call it a day. And there's a whole, we got enough for almost for a whole another show too. There's that's the second part two. So, but she a couple things. The place I talked about where my father was living out in the country, the homestead that he had out there in the beautiful central interior British Columbia. Um, we were just first time ever going there, and she looked up, and she was part Cherokee as well, Lakota, maybe Lakota Sioux Cherokee, and half of something else, more of a European influence. But oh, well, she came from this. She wasn't first generation witch either, apparently. She wanted to have her ancestral grimoire, like which I don't know much about, other than it's a magic book filled with magic spells, incantations, who knows what exactly. She wanted to take it, and she asked me if we could bury it uh, beneath my house in the cellar area of the house. That's what they do, I guess. She also claimed to have been related to Frank L. Baum, Elf Frank Baum, Frank L. Baum, the author, the Wizard of Oz creator, along
Oh,
with not Will Ferrell, but who's that more recent or the older? He was a satirist. Oh, geez, wasn't he a politician as well too? He was a trick lasso, lasso rope trickster as well too. Bloody hell, maybe the name
huh.
will come to me. Will was this Will Rogers, not Mister
Oh.
Rogers. I guess he was a Mister Rogers, but not that Mister Rogers. Yeah,
Not that
yeah.
one.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
Wow.
she claimed that there had never been somebody in all of her life that she'd wanted to kill more intensely than me. She confessed that to me. She said it straight to my face. And uh okay, which is really odd. I don't understand. Maybe it's kind of like a sense of like buyer's remorse or something like that. We'd hooked up through the interwebs after a couple weeks of, you know, uh, virtual courting or what have you. And I had no idea where it was all going to lead. And thank God, like I really did dodge a bullet, not having to suffer any further with her at all. Obviously, dodged a bullet in more ways than one. If you recall what,
It sounds like it.
yeah, yeah, with her lunatic husband there, especially, and God only knows how that all could have turned out. So, uh, the bloody alarm clock. So, but she was a tarot reader. I mean, she had her good days, but she had a very dark side too. And so we'll leave it at that. But the tarot, she would do tarot readings from time to time, and with me, she did a couple times where she'd do the tarot, and she'd look and say, "You really need to find yourself an Asian woman." And she said this with a kind of a wicked little glint or glimmer in her eye. You really need to find
Hmm.
yourself an Asian woman, or the maybe just with what perhaps the cards were telling her. Lo and behold, what have we got now? Living in South Korea wasn't my intention from at all. Although one of my first more serious girlfriends back in the day was half Japanese, and she was beautiful, just to die for. I never had a an Asian fetish or suffered much in the way of what they call yellow fever, you know, which I guess if you flip that around, I white fever, black fever. What kind of fever are people suffering from these days, anyways? I guess it all really depends, doesn't it? So beaver fever,
To me,
although
nothing.
that's beaver fever. I don't know if you know about that. You can track that from drinking from streams that are contaminated by beavers having built dams. They're the bugs that they've got, I guess. They contaminate the
Oh,
waters, the ticks and fleas or whatever. So something like that. But hey, it's been a real pleasure
well,
speaking with you, Dana. And we've got a lot. We're about halfway through here. So
yeah.
and we'd like to have you on our show, Pirate Radio Podcast, at some point. Hopefully, not too far down the road. Does your husband join you, or is it strictly a solo affair?
It's a solo affair. It's a solo
Okay,
affair.
all right.
He kind of believes, he's on the fence. He's had experiences, but he's still very skeptical about it. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm just open minded myself. I'm skeptical, big time, but also open minded. You know, I just don't know what a lot of these things are, where they originate from, and what they ultimately constitute, what they're what they're comprised of. Is it interdimensional, or definitely paranormal, something out of the ordinary? There's no doubt about that. So, thank you so much, though,
Yeah.
and we'll talk again
Oh,
uh,
absolutely.
shortly.
Yeah, we'll get together again. So, thank you so much for being on the show. I know you got to get going. So, yes, thank you. And have you back. We'll get you back on here pretty soon.
Happy sailing.
All right. You take care. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
All right. Bye. If anyone else out there has a story you would like to share, email me paranormaldana726 at gmail.com. And we will see everyone next time.